It's time to get real with Lady Ray. Real talk, real conversation. Real people, real answers. Real talk, real conversation. So let's get real with Lady Ray.
Does using the term "image is everything" make you feel pompous, prideful, vain, conceited? Does it really? Or do you feel this way because society makes you feel this way? To have this conversation with me today, I have in studio Mrs. Tashera Murray. She is more than just a wife, mother, and teacher. She is a motivator and inspirer to many around her. You'll discover why as we chat. Good evening, Tashera, and welcome to the show.
Good evening, Rachel. So good to be here this evening.
Well, the name, Tashera, I struggled to pronounce it, and then I had to ask you how, and then I thought to myself, there's got to be a story behind this.
Oh, of course there is a story, and it's a story that I seem to tell more often than not. So as you mentioned, I'm a teacher, and one of the subjects that I teach is history. So I always teach about identity and who we are. That's sort of my first lesson, introduction lesson. And I start with talking about myself. So my name, Tashera, is actually my family surname.
Wow.
So, yes. So during the apartheid, my father being Portuguese, his surname is Tashera. So he's Reverend Tashera. And Mixed Marriages Act prevented my mom and my dad from getting married. So my dad then decided to reclassify himself as colored. And in the process of doing that, he had to change his surname, and he then decided, he literally took a surname out of a hat, and it's like, oh, what can I do? Oh, my mom's boyfriend's surname is George, let's go with that. And that's what he did. And so when I was then born, after the abolishment of apartheid, my father thought it was a good idea to name me Tashera in order to continue his legacy. And so I ended up being Tashera, technically.
Wow.
But I was like, I'm not going to live that life. So Tashera was, you know, it's my heritage, is who I am. And I love telling the story because, one, it speaks about a dark time in our past as a people.
Yes.
But at the same time, I love the idea that my father was so, you know, he believed so much in continuing a legacy through a name. And I always start off by telling everybody that a name is so important, and what we speak when we speak a name is so important. So I love my name because it has a rich history for me. Wow. So that's the story in a nutshell.
Awesome, awesome. A name adds to your image. Tonight we're talking all things image. Remember to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with what's happening. Click the notifications icon. I'd love to hear from you, so leave your comments and your likes. And definitely we want you to share this link with all those who'd love to hear this conversation. There's the common term that goes, put your best foot forward. Your brand is your business. First impressions last. What do these terms mean to you?
You know, Rachel, when you mentioned to me that this is the discussion that you want to have, I really had to laugh a little bit because since the beginning of this year, I found myself teaching at an entrepreneurial school. So what that basically means is I teach history, but I teach it with the salt and pepper of entrepreneurial skills that I've then been taught in. And my very first assembly that I had to present was on personal branding. And that's why I said I had to have a bit of a chuckle. I thought, how, you know, weird that would be. And the first thing I said to everybody is that, you know, when we think of branding or marketing, we constantly think of it in a business setting. But actually, it's much deeper than that, because entrepreneurial skills and taking things like personal branding and marketing and applying it into your personal life is actually something that we do anyway.
Yes.
So what that means is that the way we present ourselves, the way I dress, speaks about my personal branding. If I'm into, I don't know, 70s attire, which I'm not, but you know, if I'm into that, that speaks about my loves, my passions, my experiences. It's the way I package myself. It's the way I want the world to see me, and the way I want the world to actually perceive me. If you catch my drift, you know, I know that's a loaded statement, but it's really about more than just saying, oh, this is my businesses' personal branding, but actually taking that concept and internalizing it, saying, how do I want to be remembered?
Yes.
How do I want to be perceived by people? How do I want to be known? What do I want to be known for? You know, in many ways, I always tell my students, if you had to write your own obituary, what would it actually say?
I like that one.
You know, and for me, it is, yes, image plays a role in that because it's part of the package. You know, you're attracted to certain products because of how they're packaged. But what you're really looking for is the quality of that product and what it does for you in your personal capacity. Does it add value to your life?
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
does it add value? Does the service it promises, does it deliver on that? And you have to, well, I believe that you have to look at yourself in that exact same way. So image is not everything, but image plays a huge role in how you want to present yourself.
Excellent. So would it be safe to say that your brand is your business, or that you are your brand, extends way beyond just commercial and corporate? It is something that one should apply in their daily, everyday life.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with that statement more. I don't think, and as I said, even though I teach history for argument's sake, the way I package it is always about how I want to be associated with how I teach. You know, I want to be known as a diligent person,
Yes.
personally. I want to be known as somebody that is thorough. I want to have my learners have a certain experience when they come to my class. So more than just a business, my personal branding speaks about what I do within my own capacity, with my skills, with my knowledge, with my experiences, and how I then package that to give of myself to the rest of the world. Hence I say, it speaks to the idea that when I am no longer here, when I've passed on, what is it that people say about me? You know, they're not just going to mention the image, you know, or the package, because that's just the first step, you know.
Yeah.
But it's rather, how do I make people feel? You know, do I make an impact in their lives? And for me personally, personal branding really speaks about who you are and who you want to be, and what do you want to be known for. That's really what I think it should be.
Yeah. So we could actually run a parallel between branding and image, because they can't go separate of one another.
Synonymous, you know,
Excellent.
definitely.
So you had a moment of enlightenment in recent times, and you embarked on a journey of enhancing your image, if I may say. So tell us a little bit about that. You were diagnosed with an underactive thyroid, and that's where the journey began. And in explaining that to us, just also tell us what experiences anyone who would be diagnosed with an underactive thyroid would go through, and how it would affect your image, your body, emotions, mental, all of that.
So, you know, Rachel, I think I would like to start off by saying that before even coming to the realization that I had an underactive thyroid, my biggest goal was to lose weight. And I managed to lose a lot of weight after my son.
Can I just pause you there?
Yes.
Okay. When you say your biggest goal was to lose weight, may I ask, why was it a goal? What drove you to want to lose weight?
So definitely, and hence I'm starting with my son. So
Yeah.
I've got 2 children, and after my son, I just, you know, picked up a heckload of weight and embarked on banting and lost like 30 kgs. Had my second child, and it's like, I really liked how people saw me, you know, like, oh, you just snap back, you know, that's the phrase I guess. And how I felt, you know, I felt in control.
So you liked how your image was perceived?
I loved how my image was perceived after my son. Fast forward a couple of years after that, I then fall pregnant with my daughter, and I think I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to lose weight, and it's going to be brilliant, and everybody's going to think, oh, you're so beautiful, and all of that. And here are the words I'm using.
Yeah.
You're so beautiful. And it didn't happen. It just didn't happen. No matter how much I exercised, I practically ate nothing, and honestly, there was a point where I was like, I'm actually like testing to see that I'm actually going to eat nothing, and I would still not lose weight. And slowly, I got myself into this real rut about how I started seeing myself. I called myself ugly names, like you ugly, you a loser, you can't even lose weight, like you're so ill-disciplined, you're so, all these things, and that consumed me. It honestly consumed me. I had a personal trainer, and my personal trainer was at a point also of like, I don't know what you're doing wrong, but you're like just not losing weight. You're training hard and you're doing all of this. And this negativity that started overcoming me because of not being able to lose weight really impacted me, not only as a person, but then of course as a wife and as a mother. And having had then a daughter, and it was like a year on that my daughter, from the point of having given birth and struggling to lose weight, it was a full-on 18 months. And having looked at my daughter, I realized that I don't want her to look at herself and think that she's not beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't want her to have this perception that if she is, a little bit taller or shorter or bigger or smaller, that is wrong, you know. And I started seeking advice from my GP at the time. And of course, she'd started doing a whole lot of tests because she's like, look, obviously something is not right because you are doing X, Y, and Z. But she said, it starts off with understanding that sometimes you are not in control of how your body works, you know. And the word that she used was control. And I stopped and I sat in her office and I realized that, wow, why am I so obsessed about what I look like when I have just given birth? My children are healthy, my mind is strong, I've got a good marriage, all these positive things, and yet I was focusing on this. I realized then, and in that moment, that it was deeper. It was deeper than just not being able to lose weight. The words that I was speaking over myself, it really made me feel like I was putting a real damper on, going out. I didn't want to interact with people. And I'm a real social person. Didn't want to go out. I didn't want people to see me. I would constantly be worried about what people think or say, oh, you lost weight before, but now, you couldn't do it again. It was all about how people saw me. And I realized that those things were more important to me than actually focusing on what was really wrong, I did a couple of tests and found out that I actually have an underactive thyroid, which made a whole lot more sense because I wasn't sleeping well. I was suffering from highs and lows, so a little bit of depression. My hair started falling out. My hair started becoming real brittle. My skin was exceptionally dry. And of course, intimately, libido was exceptionally low. And I just didn't like the way I felt. I just didn't feel good. And my GP suggested I obviously go on altroxin. So I'll tell you why I chose not to go on altroxin, because it's a chemical. And when they suggested I go on altroxin, it was a matter of like, you will be on altroxin for life. So it's a hormone, synthetic hormone, and it's something that you're going to be on for life. Now, I'd like to stop and say that I have a huge love for Jesus and everything Jesus, and God is so important to me. And I pondered on the scripture of I'm wonderfully and fearfully made. And I realized that I didn't want to be dependent on medicine if I didn't have to be, And I started researching, firstly within the Bible, and about like really what does God say about my body. And I started speaking these things over myself, and I realized that there's a natural way. And I said to myself, I'll seek the help of a homeopath as an alternative to try and sort of do things in God's way, go back to nature. And I just was so passionate about doing it that way. I saw a homeopath, and he assured me that it would take me a long time because homeopathy is natural. It's a slow process. But one thing that the homeopaths told me, he said, but you have to start loving yourself even now. And I looked at this guy and I was like, actually, you don't know me. Like, I do love myself, duh, And I wasn't, And I realized as every morning waking up and not seeing a change, saying negative things about myself. Like saying you're so fat, you're so ugly, oh, you can't, like, oh, now you have acne, like, goodness me, your husband's probably like horrified at your sight.
I'm going to pause you there. You made a statement that you said, I do love myself. So was that purely just in response to what the homeopath said? Or did you think that you loved yourself?
Look, I think there was a bit of arrogance on my side.
Okay.
Arrogance in that I always loved the idea that I looked like I had things together.
Okay.
You know, there's this meme that says, I may look okay, but deep down inside, and that was really me, you know. And I think when he said that to me, I was like, no, what are you talking about? Like, do you know who I am? Like, I am the together person, you know. So therefore, I must love myself, or surely love myself, you know.
So would you say that the drive to be perceived a certain way can even put you in a position of where you lie to yourself, that you don't even know the reality anymore?
Absolutely. I think we lie to ourselves more often than we would like to admit. We lie to ourselves when we say we're okay when we're not.
Yes.
You know, we lie to ourselves as moms when we want to be in control of everything and think that we don't need help. And then we technically just like putting all this pressure on ourselves for no apparent reason. You know, I remember with my son having postnatal depression because I wanted to be in control. I wanted to be the super mom. And I was lying to myself. I was lying to myself that I can do it all because we don't have to. We really don't have to.
We're going to get back to your story, but when you speak about wanting to be a super mom and wanting to pretend like you have it all together, I beg to just pose this notion, is that sometimes is it not the fact that we create images based on the wrong perceptions of things? So we have this image is everything, and we need to have an image of who we are and what we want, because having a good image builds confidence. But are we breaking ourselves down because of the images that we choose to follow? Like moms will choose to follow the woman that we see in a movie who can run a household, drive children to soccer, come home and cook a 3-course meal, and then as a mom, you saying that is the image that I need to follow. So that is the self-image of myself. And only when I use that image or I live up to that image, am I now living my best life?
I definitely agree. I think society has created certain images that we need to aspire to. And I think it's only in the recent years where we're starting to break down those lies, you know, that we don't have to have it all together, that we don't have to be a super mom.
Yes.
You know, my husband is in the mama magic industry, so in the business of babies and everything. And I think part of that was my husband's in this industry, and so therefore I have to portray everything.
Oh, makes a lot of sense,
you know?
Because it's like, okay, because I know the Mama Magic has the expos and they have the magazines, so you're supposed to have all the information,
have
and
all of
you're
it together.
supposed to be all together, because I mean, the man who puts the information together is in my house, so
exactly.
I can
so I mean,
see
it's
the
like
added pressure.
when the magazine speaks about the beauty of breastfeeding, which I believe is beautiful, and then come 3 months down the line and I can't because I'm so exhausted.
Oh my word.
It's like, you know, and I can't, and I'm losing it. I'm literally like losing it, and we're having this argument because he's like, and not because he didn't, want to do anything to support, but he was more of like, no, but you can do it, babe. In fact, my husband's my biggest fan. So he's always like, you can do this, you can do this. And I'm like, I can't. Like, I just cannot have this baby breastfeed for any long, because my son was huge. He was 4 kgs and he was feeding around the clock. I was just like, oh my goodness, I'm just there as a human pacifier. But more than that, I mean, only now in hindsight, I realized it was a matter of feeling out of control.
Yeah.
Feeling lost. And you see, I think what I'm trying to say is that I've found so many phases in my life that I felt like I constantly wanted to be in control. And when I lost control, I lost a little bit of who I really was, because I thought a certain way of myself, and when I couldn't be that, I felt hopeless. So it was more than just the outer. Hence I said, I may look okay, but deep down inside. Until the point where I had to figure out what was happening deep down inside.
Yes.
Could I then slowly work on what was happening on the outside? And when my homeopath said that to me, he's like, but you need to learn to love yourself through every phase, because your body is capable of doing amazing things. You just had babies, you know,
Yes.
you have healthy babies, healthy pregnancies, you can produce breast milk and all of those things. And focus on what you are able to do, that looking at yourself through the lens of you are powerful. And I just couldn't. I couldn't see it during that moment. And it was literally a matter of, in the beginning, faking it until you make it. Where I literally had to stand in front of the mirror and say, you are beautiful. You are capable. You know, the stretch marks you see on your stomach means that there was a human housed in there.
Yes.
And having then also been friends with people that have struggled to fall pregnant, actually thinking like learning to be grateful in those little things, and really learning that I needed to love myself at every image, and understanding that just because I might lose weight and be thin doesn't mean I was going to be happy.
Yeah. So you made the statement, I firstly had to learn to look beyond my body's image in a physical nature and had to learn to be kind to me. I had to unlearn all the negativity I associated with my body and had to employ tons of self-talk. When you make this statement, are you speaking to the aspect of where you got to realize that part of enhancing my outer image would mean that I needed to change my internal image?
Absolutely. You know, when we're not in, there's a concept that we also teach our kids at our school, and it speaks about the internal locus of being.
Internal locus of being.
What's happening internally, and looking at the layers of who we are. There's aspects in our life where we are able to control things, and then there are aspects out of our life where we're not able to control things. I can't control the weather, okay, but how I respond to the weather will make the difference, you know. So when we look at that, I had to realize that it has to start from the inside. If I can't love myself at 30 kgs plus overweight, then how am I going to truly love myself when I am a size 6 or a size 8? And really, who decides that that's a great size to be anyway, you know? And I've had to literally sit and break down those concepts that society said I needed to strive towards, but it was also superficial. I realized that they were also superficial. I had to sit down and realize, actually, like, my body will respond to the things I speak about it. You know, there was a book a couple of years that came out, The Secret.
Yes.
And it spoke about literally like speaking things in existence, or speaking into the universe, and things come into existence. Now, I don't necessarily follow the principles of the book, but I believed that at the heart of it, it spoke about literally the power in our tongue. So if I woke up in the morning and saying, you know what, I'm going to shift my focus from losing weight, but shift my focus to getting healthier and being stronger and working on those things, then everything else has to fall in place. And I had to learn really to be kind to myself. Because it's so easy for me to say, oh, Rachel, you look so beautiful today. But to say that to myself, I was like, oh, but look, your hair is out of place, or, you know, you've got wrinkles under your eyes. It's so easy to be critical to oneself. And I actually had to stop and say, why would I want that? And remember, I said to you earlier on, I always have this picture of my daughter. And yes, I have a son, and I think he's beautiful. But as a girl, I always just thought, I don't want her to look at herself in the mirror and say, oh, I wish I was taller, I wish I was darker or fairer or whatever. I wanted her to look at herself and appreciate who she is exactly the way she is. So I had to really employ the ability to be kind to myself. I do obviously still have moments in my day where I say, oh, you're so stupid, why did you do this?
We're going to get there.
You know? But you have to stop yourself and be like, get back there.
If you're enjoying the conversation, I'd like you to leave your comments, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. If you know somebody who'd like to listen to this conversation, please do share the link with them. To keep up to date with what's happening on the channel, click the notifications icon. Even though you had accepted the fact that you were more than your physical appearance, you still made a choice to go on a journey of weight loss. Was part of the reason for that to improve your physical self-image? I know you said that you had to learn to love yourself, but I think if we're honest with ourselves, weight loss has a lot to do with the way we view ourselves and our self-image. What was your reason for choosing to go on this journey? Because I know it could not have been an easy journey.
I love the fact that you say, was it more than just, getting healthy? Definitely. I mean, I'm human and I love looking good.
Yeah.
I love the fact that my husband thinks I look good. And I love the fact that, people compliment me and say, oh, you look so healthy. I have shifted my focus though from wanting to be skinny, and I think that was a huge sort of mind change for me, or paradigm shift from wanting to be skinny, and actually thinking, how can I get my body into its best shape so that I'm strong?
Yes.
And I didn't want to just be strong so that I'm not going to join some sort of strongman competition, but strong in the sense that endurance, longevity. But of course, there's a huge part of it is about, remember I said about personal branding and how I package the package deal.
Yes.
And my package deal, definitely I like to look good. But what I don't want is for people to stop at the good looks.
Yes.
I want them to see what it took for me to get there. And the reason why that's important for me, because it speaks to something that's so close to my heart, and that's discipline. I am such a disciplinarian, of course. I'm a teacher.
You're a teacher.
So discipline is something that I admire in other people. And it takes a lot of discipline to eat well. It takes a lot of discipline to wake up and exercise when no one's watching. So, most of my weight loss happened during the heart of lockdown. When everybody was gaining weight, I was waking up.
And you were still baking.
I bake almost every day,
Yes.
almost every second day.
I look at you on Instagram and there's chocolate cake and carrot cake.
So,
I
I bake for the love of getting other people to enjoy
Yes.
that. It's a love language for me. I just love to do. But discipline in as far as understanding that I can have my cake and eat it,
Yes.
but I'm going to go and, lift some weights. And I love that feeling. I love the feeling of feeling strong, and I love the feeling of being in control. I also use my weight loss journey as a motivator for myself because I'm also studying.
Okay.
I work full-time, I work 2 jobs, I'm a parent, and so I feel like I need to spill over the ability to do, one thing on this side and have that level of discipline in every area of my life. But definitely it's more, I'm not going to say that I don't like it when people compliment me.
It does well for your image, right?
It does. But I don't personalize it that is who I am. And that's also what I don't want people to think. Hence, I like being real about it,
I stopped wanting to be skinny. What made you want to be skinny in the first place?
Society obviously tells us, when we grow up, it's very different now. When we grow up, when we were little girls and we had the likes of, what did we have? You Magazine and Cosmopolitan, and we, watched fashion TV on TV. Everybody was skinny. And in your mind, in my mind, it seemed like the ideal. Barbie was skinny, for crying in a bucket, So it was what we were supposed to strive towards. Little did I realize that it's not even, it's not even healthy necessarily. And definitely my journey to wanting to get to a place of health, because I wanted to see my body improve in terms of my hormone levels, in terms of how I sleep at night, in terms of skin improvements and all of that. And I knew that, and every doctor, every expert said, good sleep, exercise, and eat well. So I employed those things, and it helped me get there. So definitely not wanting to be skinny, but wanting to be strong and healthy.
So now when you made the statement, you said that society did, and it was Rachel, you should know this. When I researched the definition of the word image, what came up was likeness of. So would you say that the negative persona that is linked to saying image is everything is not the fact of image being everything, but what we choose to use to follow as a likeness of? So in your case, it was, I chose to follow Barbie. Barbie was skinny. I chose to follow the pictures that I saw in the You magazine or on fashion TV. So the problem is not actually being vain or the fact that I'm saying my image is everything, but rather what I choose to pattern my image against.
Absolutely. I think it stems from a little bit of, having lack of confidence. So unfortunately, when I was 11 years old, my parents got divorced. And for others, they get into a space of really being, depressed, not doing well at school.
Yes.
I did all of the opposite. I was exceptionally well at school because I wanted to please my dad, let's say, and I really had a tough time understanding or separating the fact that my parents got divorced not because of me, but because of their own issues. But in a way, and at age 11, you don't really know the reasons for why things happen. And of course, I sought for acceptance.
Yes.
And in my pursuit for acceptance, because I thought I wasn't getting that from my father, I obviously wanted the attention of the opposite sex at school or whatever the case may be. I was a smart girl. I did well academically, but I didn't feel always like I fit in. And so when people started, or rather, when people said, you're so pretty, or, we like, whatever about you, attention, that was really something that was important for me at that time. And yes, of course, the fact that everything else in commercial life emphasized that, you have the pretty girl getting with the pretty boy, and, the pretty girl has a perfect family, and all of those things were playing on my mind, probably subconsciously, not necessarily just outright.
Yeah.
Only in later years that I realized that, my issues with my body was really issues with confidence, because I didn't feel accepted. And only once I started realizing that my parents getting a divorce was nothing to do with me, because I wasn't worth having two parents, only then could I understand that the image that I was looking for had nothing to do about if that person, if I was looking a certain way, that people would love me more or love me less, So confidence and how we perceive ourselves internally definitely plays a huge role. So even if, like I'm saying, in my case, that was my thing that I wanted to control, but for someone else it might be addictions, of whatever kind. So yeah.
I've listened now when you spoke about being a child of a divorced family. You've had different phases in your life where, as a child, you needed to prove yourself to your dad. As a mother and a wife, you felt like you needed to have this particular image also. For where you at now, so as a teenager and as a child, it was You magazine and it was Barbie, and as a mother and a wife, it was the Mama Magic magazines and those kind of things. What do you use now to ascertain who you are and what your self-image is? Who are you, and what are your guides and your templates that you use for that?
I think it's such a loaded statement, because I don't think that I'm quite there yet. I mentioned to my friend earlier, and I said, I'm busy with an assignment for university, and this speaks about professional development. And I've come to realize that professional development is not going to do me any good until I do personal development. And that is me constantly trying to work at who I am. I think for me, the real thing is that understanding that I have been created by something much bigger than me.
Yeah.
So understanding that I was brought on this earth for a purpose, and working towards finding that purpose and developing who I am, understanding my strengths, my weaknesses, confronting my fears, confronting my inabilities and my limitations, and really honing in on who I am as a woman.
Yes.
Before I am a mother, before I am a wife, before I am a teacher. Who's Tashera really? And that is something that I would love to say is not something that I've got down to a T yet. I'm constantly working at that. But what I can honestly say is the thing that grounds me is my spirituality.
Yes.
it's the thing that gives me something to look towards or aspire to. So I personally believe that my spirituality is what gives me my sense of identity, knowing that I didn't just happen to be here, you know, that there has to be something bigger and greater and better. And so I do spend a lot of time reading up on bettering my skills as, I don't know, no, and I don't want to actually I shouldn't use the word skills, but just understanding who I am, you know, knowing how to respond in certain situations. If I get very angry, and actually stop to say, actually, why did that bother you so much? You know, looking into me first, you know, internally, and say, why did I respond in that way? Is it because I have anger issues? And yes, it's not always that deep, but in order for me to sort of like flesh out my issues, in order to be the better version of myself, I have to do that. I have to constantly stop, reflect, and say, how could I have done this better? How could I have responded better? So I definitely think that my journey towards self-discovery, if you will, is a journey. I haven't reached there yet, but if it wasn't for my spirituality, I think I'd be a bit lost.
Yeah. So a takeaway from that for me is that in order to be able to build the image, or to be my image is everything, one needs to know who you are first.
Absolutely.
So you've got a group called Our Best Lives. So before we say goodnight to you, I'd like you to tell us a bit about what the inspiration of that group is, and what is your plans for the group, and what it offers to those that are in need.
So I don't have any plans other than the fact that I realize that a lot of women go through a lot of what I go through.
Yeah.
Everybody, my friends, I'm such a people's person. So people see my lives, and I'm a bit of an open book, so I don't mind, you know, sharing. And I had a lot of my friends ask me, like, I really I'm struggling to lose weight. And I'm like, okay, but like, what's really like the issue? You know, because I realized that when people say, I'm struggling to lose weight, it's not really about losing weight. It's like, why is it such a big thing? And so I started this WhatsApp group with about 8 friends, close friends, relatives, and we shifted away from wanting to just lose weight, like, oh, if we were supposed to eat clean today and you had a chocolate, and then people want to like, oh, I'm such a failure, you know, moving away from that kind of talk and saying, it's okay, you know, you had a tough day, you maybe lost your puppy and you grabbed a chocolate because you wanted to feel better. So understanding why we reach for the chocolates, you know, or reach for that. And that is not a bad thing, that you're here to live life. Nobody's trying to like, you know, look down on you for anything. So the group was really as an encouragement. It was everything that I needed, you know. I always say to them, I'm not here because I'm better. No, I'm here as a source of accountability. Accountability more than when I'm jumping and when I'm eating, but rather about like, am I still being kind to myself?
Yes.
So as much as I encourage you to be kind to yourself, I'm saying also check up on me, because we need each other. Women need each other. You know, we go through so many things. Hormones do crazy things to us. I mean, just from a monthly point of view, you know. So we need to know that we're in this together. We don't have to carry the burden alone. So the group has been going strong for about a year, and everybody has lost weight. And it, like I said, it's not the end goal, but the fact that through all the ups and downs, people still manage is testament to the fact that when you start looking at being healthier, spiritually, mentally, physically, the rest will follow.
Yeah, I think it speaks to the definition, part of the definition, the likeness of creating a group like that gives a group of people something to use as a template. What am I building my self-image towards? Instead of building it towards a magazine, because image is important. I think anybody would probably be lying if they said that my image is not important, because when we look in the mirror, when we feel good, we do good. When we look good, we walk a different way. We're confident a different way. So I like the concept of the group, because it gives your friends, your family, the women around you, something to be able to model their self-image towards. To anyone who is at a point where they're doubting their self-image, if they're at a point of where they're in a stage of self-abuse, so somebody who wants to be able to move from a position of where they're self-abusing themselves because of the poor self-image that they have, what can you say to them to help them move from a poor self-image to an image that catapults them towards their destiny?
You know, I think it's so difficult because I don't consider myself a counselor of any sort, but I always say that whenever you think a negative thought about yourself, there's about 100, let's say 10. Let's be modest. 10 people who see you through different lenses. And when we just shift our paradigm from like being negative, I say find one good thing about yourself. Each day, find one positive. If it's your ability to make an amazing toasted salmi, focus on what you are good at, and each day add a positive thought, about yourself, and really spend time. You know, as we sit and make lists about all the bad things, start making lists about what you're good at, what you think is a good attribute about yourself, whether physical or otherwise. And I find that that's what helped me, because it's so easy when people around you say good things about you, but when you have to do it, it's a different thing. But once you master it, it can really change your life. And that's always my encouragement, that you just find some good things about yourself each day and focus on that.
Tashera, thank you so much for the privilege of your time. It has been awesome talking to you and learning how to view myself from the inside out. If you enjoyed tonight's conversation, remember to subscribe to the channel. If you want to stay up to date with what's happening on the channel, click the notifications icon. I'd love to hear your comments and see your likes, so please do leave them on the channel. If you know somebody who needs to hear this conversation, please share the link with them. And let's get everyone having real conversations, asking real questions, and dealing with the real answers. The familiar quote by Jay Danzy says, "Your smile is your logo. Your personality is your business card. How you leave others feeling after you have left is an experience that becomes your trademark." Thank you so much for watching tonight's show. Remember to tune in next week for more of Let's Get Real with Lady Ray, where we can have real conversations, ask real questions, and deal with the real answers that will come from within yourself. Coming up on next week's episode of Let's Get Real with Lady Ray, we'll be asking the question, does a title automatically earn you respect? I'll see you next week.
Let's get real,